Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks, and also welcome to the second video of two in Genesis week. If you missed the first video, I would recommend going to watch that first because that was the video where we ranked worst to best the 15 studio albums of Genesis. And so this is sort of the wrap up video where we talk about live albums, although with Genesis, I think those are really substantial. Talk about some comps and maybe a little. I don't know. I might touch on some Phil Collins solo work as well. With like I've mentioned before, Peter Gabriel's going to get his own. I'm waiting for his new record to come out, IO, and once that comes out, we'll do a Peter Gabriel week at some point, whenever that record comes out. But anyway, well, let's start with live albums. And I guess we'll go in chronological order. So you got to start with Genesis Live, which was, what was that, 73? Yeah, 73. So this was pre-Selling England by the Pound. So I guess Foxtrot Tour. And again, you got there's Peter Gabriel with his bat wings costume. And there's his, well, I don't know what he's wearing there, but yeah. Gabriel's always fun to watch live during this era. Yeah, so I mean, what's the word on this record? I mean, you probably know if you know this record at all. It is awesome, but incomplete. I mean, almost everyone who talks about this record is sort of dumbfounded as to why they didn't put out a double. I mean, they should have. And the the glaring omission is Supper's Ready. Because there were some amazing live recordings of Supper's Ready from that era. Including on the Genesis archive, which I'll talk about momentarily. But yeah, so what's here is awesome. You got Watcher of the Skies, Get 'Em Out by Friday, Return of the Giant Hogweed, and then on the second side, Musical Box and The Knife. Pretty much all of these are the definitive versions of these songs, more powerful than what appeared on the studio records. So I mean, this is essential to have. Look, just look at this, Phil Collins with hair. Look at that. Essential, but knowing that it is grossly incomplete. so there you go. Coming up next from 1977 would be a double album, Seconds Out, which is really interesting. This is a live album. So obviously after Gabriel left, and so Phil Collins is taken over, but there's still a quartet here, and this is the last Genesis release before Steve Hackett bolts the band, and they become a trio. And so this is kind of interesting. Supper's Ready takes up a side of this, and it's a great version. A lot of these songs are from the Gabriel era. And again, I think they're still just trying to sort of prove to everybody that they can soldier on without Peter Gabriel and that Phil Collins can kind of fill that role. So it's an interesting mix of songs from the Gabriel era and, of course, from those two post-Gabriel albums, Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wuthering. Something else that's kind of interesting about this, they start to bring in some drum help so Phil can kind of focus sometime. Phil still plays some drums, but so he can kind of focus on the vocals. Chester Thompson plays on here, but also, very briefly, Bill Bruford. Look at that. Bill Bruford toured with them and played. So Bill Bruford, prog drummer extraordinaire, played with Yes, King Crimson, and Genesis. I mean, sort of holy trinity there. It's pretty amazing. Anyway, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of people are very fond of this record. I guess with Gabriel era songs, I just kind of want to hear Peter Gabriel sing them. Phil does a fine job, but yeah, I should give this record, I don't know, so some more chances. I've tried here and there, but it just hadn't grabbed me. Like understanding that it really does. A lot of people really like that record. Next, from 1982, we have Three Sides Live, where they are sort of getting more and more into the pop realm, but still hanging on to some of their prog roots. So it's kind of an interesting mix. Now, the album title. So the American release, which is what this is accurate. There are three sides, double album, three sides are live, and the fourth side is some studio stuff. I believe it was that 3x3 EP that was, I think, just a UK release. And so those songs are on here, and then there's some B sides from the Duke era, I believe. But then there's some later releases, and maybe it was a UK release. I don't remember all the history, but like my CD version is all live, and that side four of studio material um, is replaced by some more live material. So the title makes no sense. It's not Three Sides Live, it's Four Sides Live. This is Three Sides Live. I I prefer the genuine Three Sides Live because I like having, because I don't have 3x3. So I like having those songs. Paper Late's a crackerjack of a pop song, man. That's awesome. Yeah, so I like the Three Sides Live concept and the fourth studio. But yeah, but the live stuff is great. Featuring mostly Duke and Abacab material, but I think that material really comes alive live. We kind of extended out all of it, really. Like the live version of Abacab is great. All of it, really. You Turn It On Again, Dodo, Abacab, and then on the next side, Behind the Lines, Duchess, Me and Sarah Jane, and Follow You, Follow Me. And then side three, Misunderstanding, which I think it's kind of ruined when Phil Collins tries to do his little extended break and scat with the audience. And it just sort of breaks the flow of the song. Then they do In the Cage, the old medley that they always do, Cinema Show, Slipperman's in there, which is great. And then side three closes with Afterglow. It's solid. I'm really fond of this, and I haven't listened to it in a long time, but man, I used to listen to that all the time. I know it well. What's after that? Well, 1992, 93, the We Can't Dance tour. They released two live albums. I have one of them. I have it on CD. But The Way We Walk, actually, they're both titled The Way We Walk, and one is Volume 1, The Shorts, which is like short songs, kind of more short, concise pop songs. That's the one I don't have. Editor can throw it up, but I think it looks very similar to this, because this is The Way We Walk, Volume 2, The Longs, and the long songs. And I don't know. If I'm going to buy a live album this late in the game from Genesis, I'm more interested in hearing them do these long tunes. It's like a 20-minute medley of kind of the older stuff. Driving the Last Spike, Domino, Fading Lights, Home by the Sea, and the drum duet. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I remember I bought this. I was kind of interested, but I hardly ever put it in. I don't think it's that great. What's next? And this I don't have. Editor can throw it up here. But 2007, there's Live Over Europe. 2007, one of their reunion shows when Phil Collins came back and just toured and made a ton of money. Didn't even bother putting out an album of new material, but toured and made a ton of money. All right, let's talk compilations. I don't have, because I have no need to, because I have all the stuff. I don't have Turn It On Again, the hits, but that's a pretty concise. I mean, if you want, it definitely focuses more on the pop hits. If I remember right, there's like two Gabriel songs on there, and the rest is Phil Collins, more pop hits. So it's not real accurate, and I don't think it's really fair to the Gabriel era. Sort of makes if you're like just coming to Genesis and listening to that album, that compilation, sounds like the Gabriel era was pretty slight, which the opposite is true, obviously. I'll tell you, a compilation I think is much more effective, and I do have this, is the Platinum Collection. This one's good. This is I don't know if it ever came out on vinyl, but this is a 3 CD set. and I think it really balances it well because there's one CD is the Gabriel era, and then there's two CDs cover kind of the rest, which is that longer Collins era, and then there's even I think a song or two from Calling All Stations. So it's pretty complete. I think it has a song, at least one song from every Genesis album, including like the EP, 3x3 Paperlates on there, except for the debut. There's not a song from the debut on here, but other than the debut, there's a song from every Genesis album on here, at least one. Some of the albums are represented by 3-4 songs, so it's a nice, complete kind of one stop if that's what you're looking for. Now they have put out these sort of box sets, the archives. I do have Archives Volume 1, so I'm much more interested in that because that focuses on the Peter Gabriel era. There is an Archives Volume 2, which focuses from 1976 to 92, so the Phil Collins era. I mentioned this in the previous video, but obviously I'm aware when I say Gabriel era that Phil Collins was in the band through most of the Gabriel era too. But I'm talking about, I say Phil Collins era, Peter Gabriel era. It's who the lead vocalist is. It's just sort of a shorthand for, well, you know what I mean. But I don't have that volume 2 of the Collins era, but I do have. This is just the booklet, but the 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 Genesis Archive 1967 to 75. So basically the Peter Gabriel era, and it's a 4 CD set. A real nice booklet. If you if you love the Gabriel era, I mean, this is worth hunting down. I don't know how easy or hard this is to find at this point. I've had this forever, but because it's pretty awesome. The first 2 CDs is The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway in its entirety, performed live on that tour. So it's just basically Lamb Lies Down on Broadway live, the first 2 CDs, and it's recorded at the Shrine Auditorium, Los Angeles, in 1975, and just as you might imagine, amazing performance. CD3 has a lot of other great live material. I think if you combine, and this is kind of what I've done, like mixing and matching and burning CDs back in the day, I would combine the best of what's on here with the live material on these 3 CDs and sort of make my dream live Genesis album from the Gabriel era. But yeah, let's see. There's Dancing with the Moonlit Night live, Firth the Fifth live, Supper's Ready live is on here. I Know What I Like live. Yeah, just some awesome stuff. So you can, what's sort of missing from that Genesis live, you can add that, and then you got a full picture of Genesis live under the Gabriel era. And the 4th CD in here is kind of early stuff, so from the era of the first album. Demos and rare stuff, which I don't find that interesting, honestly. But man, those 3 live CDs, amazing. All right, very briefly, and we're gonna wrap up. I talk Phil Collins because I'm not gonna do a separate Phil Collins video, I don't think. Now, like I said, do a whole separate week for Peter Gabriel's work. It deserves its own its own week. We'll do that. I don't own any Rutherford. What's the drawing a total blank? Mike and the Mechanics, right? Actually, had some hits. I don't own any of that. I don't own any Tony Banks. I really should, from what I understand, own some Steve Hackett. I don't, and I love Steve Hackett. Hey, if you're watching and you have some great Steve Hackett, and you have some great suggestions, put it in the comments because I need to get some Steve Hackett. But obviously, I do have some Phil Collins solo stuff. I'm not going to go through his whole career. I want to talk about his first 3 records because to me, those are the essential ones. Those are worth having. After that 3rd record, I lose interest real quick in Phil Collins' solo work. But man, these first 2 records I think are really good. I mean, Face Value, his debut, was 81. Yeah, this was a surprise. You guys might know this story, right? That these were kind of demos and stuff. He was just sort of, I mean, pretty relaxed and loose about it. Wasn't really planning on this great breakthrough solo album, and it hit, and it's pretty awesome. In the air tonight, of course. Um, but man, some other really good stuff. I think I Missed Again is just I mean, we're talking about like just pop juggernaut. Just I mean, it's so good. Those horns on there, man, it's good. But I'm gonna tell you what, my favorite solo Phil Collins album is his second one. It's one that kind of gets lost sometimes between the first and third. Is Hello, I Must Be Going. Yeah, man, I don't know what it is about this record, but I've always just really dug it. I've, and I don't even know why exactly. I mean, I Don't Care Anymore is a blistering opener, man. He can do that anger pretty well, especially when his marriages are falling apart. Like China, I've always liked. Even he does that kind of weird accent in there. Do You Know? Do You Care? It's another great angry one. On side two, there's kind of some moodier stuff where he's starting to experiment with some of the drum programming, which I don't mind. Through These Walls and The West Side. I don't know. I've got a soft spot for that. And of course, what made him bigger than Genesis, right, was the third one, No Jacket Required. And, yeah, I mean, I read his autobiography. Felt very entertaining. It's really good. And I remember when he was talking about this era when these songs were all over everywhere. This was, you couldn't go 10 minutes flipping through the dials on the radio without hearing some Phil Collins. And I remember in his autobiography, he talked about like even I got tired of Phil Collins, just like how saturated his songs were on the radio in the '80s. But I don't know. You pull, kind of step away from all that, and it wasn't his fault that he was overplayed. I mean, these are just really great pop songs, man. I mean, and even some of the lesser known ones, like well, "Take Me Home" was a single. That's a great song. Yeah, I mean, the hits. "Don't Lose My Number," "Studio," "One More Night." I've always liked "Long, Long Way to Go." I thought that was a really kind of haunting song. If I remember, Sting is on some backing vocals on that. Sting's vocals are really effective on there. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. And like I said, I have some of his later stuff on CD, but to me, it's not really worth talking about. Anyway, thus endeth Genesis Week. So I hope you've enjoyed Genesis Week. I've enjoyed talking about it. Enjoyed going through these things. And let's talk Genesis in the comments if you want. We can talk about some of these live albums, what you think. And give some suggestions. Like I said, if you have some suggestions on some Steve Hackett albums, especially, but I don't know, if you like some Tony Banks and some Mike Rutherford solo stuff, let me know. I'm open. I'll explore it. Well, thank you so much. Please do subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I really appreciate it. It helps us do what we want to do, and like the videos and hit the bell for notifications and all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.